Hey everyone, this is Radio Xtreme. I'm your host, Glacier928, and with me returning is my co-host, R17. Great to have you back.
It's really great to be back, and definitely post NYCC, at least our first day there.
Yeah, so this is episode 30. It's the New York Comic-Con 2013 recap. We were there yesterday for the first day, which was usually the press day. Shockingly, was pretty much packed.
A lot of VIP members were there as well. That's what I think did it.
Yeah. But before we get to NYCC, we were actually at a previous event, which was the Square Enix Press Event. Right before we got to Comic-Con. And over there, we got to actually see Thief, which is Eidos Montreal's next big title for the next-gen platforms, as well as Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut for the Wii U. And for the PlayStation 3 being shown off. And there was also, I think, the 360 build, but they weren't really showing it off as much.
No.
But the reason why they had all three platforms, we'll actually get into in a second. So, let's just go right to Deus Ex. It was the first game we played at the Square Enix event. R17, you got an extensive hands-on with the Wii U edition. What can you say?
Right, and based on the Deus Ex Wii U edition, something I've been waiting for a while, I think a couple of us have, ever since Deus Ex was released originally on the PS3 and 360, about maybe a year and a half now. It was...
About maybe 2 years
now. Yeah, about almost 2 years ago. I was excited always for the Wii U version because the second screen experience was really going to lend itself to this type of game because for those of you who played the original version, it had a lot going on in the HUD. There was a lot of mini... maps, weapon wheel, and everything. The Wii U is giving a chance to clear that HUD up and put it as a perfect and seamless second-hand experience.
Mm-hmm.
And basically now it's not only coming for the Wii U, we found out later on it was also coming for the PS3 and 360.
Right.
Now we got to see that. I just should mention, for those of you who are going to pick up the Director's Cut Edition and you don't have a Wii U, the PS3 offers a nice option. If you have a PlayStation Vita, they offer you the second screen experience with that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our staff members, Argus, was able to check it out, and he said it worked pretty well. For the 360, like Glacier said, they didn't have that version running, but it's going to have Smart Glass support. So if you have a Smart Glass or an app on your phone, you'll be able to use your second screen experience like that. The one I was looking most forward to, though, was the Wii U version, which is pretty much promised, including the PR person themselves, was pretty much stating this will be the definitive version because the gamepad for the Wii U will make it that seamless experience.
Yes.
Popping it on, the game ran incredible, and this was not a final build, so we didn't see it in its final polish, but it's in one of the later stages,
mm-hmm.
and the game's due to ship in 2 weeks.
On October 22nd.
On October 22nd, and for what I played, for those of you who have the Wii U, it looks like it's going to be a great core third-party title for the Wii U. It looks to bring the same level of integration that Splinter Cell Blacklist had a couple of 2 months ago already when it released in August. And for those of you that played Blacklist, definitely check it out. Another great third-party core title for the Wii U. And Deus Ex promises to be that next experience. Transitioning between the TV and the screen of the gamepad was seamless. The visuals looked insanely good on the gamepad.
Yeah, they did.
And this was not a final build, and everything just played so great. Everything, the colors, the textures, everything was popping out. The weapons, the audio was terrific. And it looks overall like to be a great Wii U game, so I'm really looking forward to that. And for those of you thinking about it, this wasn't even the final stage. It's going to release at $50 for the Wii U. I think it's well worth the money. You're going to be getting the game, a digital soundtrack in there. You're going to be getting a digital novel in there,
mm-hmm.
as well as DLC, extended from the original game, as well improved visuals, new weapons,
retweaked boss battles.
Retweaked boss battles. So you're getting the definitive version. And again, you could get the PS3 or 360 version. That will be $30. And my justification, now this is just me personally, this
mm-hmm.
was not said by the company. The reason the Wii U version, in my opinion, might be $20 more is because we are getting the best second screen experience. Yes, you could have the PlayStation Vita with the PS3. You could have a Smart Glass with the 360 or your phone. It's not going to be the same seamless integration that you're going to have with the Wii U gamepad. It will still be terrific. I'm sure it will still be great. But the way the PR man explained it was you don't have to keep looking up and down between the gamepad and the TV are going to work hand in hand, and the signal is going to be probably the quickest between each, which what the Wii U was designed for.
Right, which, Sony and Microsoft, they kind of just, again, we stated back at E3 2011, that when the Wii U was revealed, that Sony and Microsoft both definitely looked at each other and said, like, we got to do something similar to that.
Right.
So Sony did the remote play with the Vita, which was understandable. They were trying to do something similar with the PSP back in the day, and that didn't really work as effectively as people were hoping for. And then Microsoft just trying to use tablet integration, but ultimately neither of those companies come close to even offering what Nintendo's really truly aiming for and succeeding with, whether people want to see that or not. And I will say the word succeed because the Wii U is not failing, guys. It's really not.
No.
It just depends on how you guys want to perceive it in terms of sales. But when you see the reality of how many consoles it sold compared to the PS3 and 360 did at their launch, respectively, the Wii U is doing very well.
They have easily the strongest first-party lineup. The end of this year and beginning in next year, that includes Microsoft and Sony. Nintendo has the strongest first-party lineup.
And we'll explain why once we get to the NYCC section, because we'll just wait for that because we have our reasoning.
Absolutely.
So,
and Glacier, you got to check out Thief, which was another big highlight at the Square Enix event.
Yes, Thief was shown off for the PC. It was basically the next-gen build, more or less. It was basically the PS4, the Xbox One version, just running on the PCs there. What I can say, based on what I saw, it was really cool. It's a blend of like Assassin's Creed meets Deus Ex, and just in the first-person perspective. And, it's a pretty neat game. It really is trying to stress the fact that you can't really, like, throw yourself into the middle of a fight and expect to win. You're a thief, so you've got to be stealthy. You've got to be careful. You got to plot out your moves very carefully. It's just definitely a very neat concept. It is a revitalization of a franchise that was back in the day. Right. Just some things about the game. For example, parkour is a massive element in the game, and you had the game running on a 360 controller, even though it was the PC build of next-gen platform.
So it's kind of a convoluted setup.
Yeah, it's convoluted setup. We've got a 360 controller on a PC, but next-gen build, so we got a trifecta going there. What's interesting is, with the simple button press, very similar to how the Smart system worked in Brink, basically, if you hold down the left trigger, you'll actually be able to automatically parkour your way through certain objects in the environment. Grates on the walls are a massive element to knowing where you can climb up, as well as certain particular boxes that you'll see in the environment. What's interesting is that your main weapon, at least in the demo, was a bow and arrow, and you'll have an arrow wheel, as I like to call it, not even weapon wheel, an arrow wheel showing all the different types of arrows you could use, whether it was, your typical standard blunt head arrows, or spearhead arrows, rather. There are blunt head arrows. There's the fire arrows, water arrows, rope arrows, and you have to actually use these strategically on whether you want to, pretty much distract the guards in the area or the beggars in the area to kind of keep moving forward. And then what's cool is, for example, if you get caught in a little bit of a situation with a guard, you can melee them by pressing the right bumper on the 360 controller. And once you knock them down, if you hold it down, you'll see a cinematic camera angle of actually taking out the enemy with a melee weapon. And additionally, if you shoot an arrow at an enemy's head and it's the last shot, it will do like a bullet time effect where the camera will follow the arrow as it goes through the enemy. So, and then basically being a thief, you kind of have to loot a lot of the items in the area. So looting for money is, essential to purchase other arrows and other objects, items rather.
Right.
The one thing I will say, the lighting in the game was very impressive. You start off the game in a clock tower, and just by looking around the clock tower, you see
cogs in the wheels.
The cogs in the wheels, and then you see the light rays coming through and casting these shadows in the back, and it looks very unique, very cool.
I think it's a game, if I can interrupt, it's a game that hints at that next-gen experience. It's not overpowering like the way you see with some other third-party games like Watch Dogs, but it's a game that when you start looking at certain visual critiques, in a sense, you start noticing just that hint that it's the new systems coming and it's a new power powering this game. Right. And then the other thing that was impressive was the facial animations. When you're talking to the NPCs in the environment, their facial animations are very natural, very realistic. It's very interesting to see.
And additionally, one of the cool elements, you are a thief again. So playing as the Garrett, who's the main character, there are times where you'll be able to go into certain households, or certain apartments rather, and you'll find paintings on the wall, and you'll have to actually initiate a hacking minigame where you'll kind of scour your hand alongside the edge of a painting, and have to pay attention to where there might be a certain unlock button. So this way, once you finally find enough unlock buttons, you can remove the painting, and sure enough, hidden behind there was a certain expensive piece of loot that you could take and later on sell for currency, so you can keep purchasing new items and weapons. So, from what we've seen of Thief so far, brief, it's a pretty brief playthrough. It was about a good 15 minutes or so. Yeah. Brief for an open world game. It's pretty open world, not massively open world, but open world enough where it's noticeable.
Yeah.
Environments
almost like Assassin's Creed. Similar
to like Assassin's Creed. I'm thinking more of like a Batman Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, maybe just
where you can go
bit
into areas.
More, yeah.
But they're open enough to keep doing things. So, Thief comes out in February of 2014. We will keep you guys informed with any other future news in the game. So, after that, though, we rushed our way over to New York Comic Con.
Right.
And we got to Comic Con.
A little taken back at first once we saw the layout of the floor and we saw the setup this year.
And let's just say it right now. Sony was not there to show off the PlayStation 4, which we were already aware of a couple weeks ago, and we were severely disappointed by that since they were there last year. But then another shock, I think it was more shocking because of a last-minute decision, was Microsoft, which was stated to be there. They were on the list, and they pulled out immediately, like suddenly at the end. So the culmination of this news was we had no PlayStation 4 and no Xbox One to be played at the New York Comic Con event, which is baffling, in my opinion.
It was really surprising, given the fact that both these systems are going to be in a lot of people's households within another 4 or 5 weeks, give or take.
Yes.
So the fact that Sony, we were disappointed, and we had known a couple of weeks in advance. Microsoft was still listed as a vendor as of 2 or 3 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they were suddenly pulled for whatever reason. I don't know if it was a last-minute decision. Clearly it had to be, but regardless, there was really no next-gen games there in terms of Sony or Microsoft. And as far as third-party, for other than Watch Dogs, where there was plenty of videos being displayed for it, there was actual no gameplay demo for Watch Dogs, which was baffling to me, only because Watch Dogs is something that's been talked about for 2 E3s now.
What was even funnier, though, was walking past the Ubisoft booth. Massive painting of Watch Dogs, massive poster of it, everything. But there's no gameplay demo.
Right.
So we know that you guys have Watch Dogs, but oh wait, we have a theater. We can show you gameplay demo footage,
right? Which
we've seen for 2 years. Same ones too, not even new ones.
To be honest, none of us were interested in because
at this
point, it's a disservice in a way because it's something we have seen for 2 years. We've seen tons of footage on Watch Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited. We know, it should be a really great game. We can't understand why there wasn't at least one demo. At least a demo shown by a developer that could have been played in front of us.
No, not even that.
Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And that wasn't the case with a lot of third-party next-gen games. Were just not showing up there. Mm-hmm. Aside from Assassin's Creed Black Flag, that was shown there. But again, it was running off a PC build of a next-gen PC. Luckily, it had a PS4 DualShock, so we were very excited to see that, and we started looking for a PS4, but unfortunately there was no PS4 to be found. It was all a row of PCs, but yeah, Glacier, that was kind of disappointing because we had run to it thinking we were going to see at least one next-gen system.
Although, to be fair, for just a little bit of fun here, when you did spot the PlayStation 4 controller, you had called me over because Argus was in the middle of being interviewed by Namco, right, because he had purchased Soul Calibur 5 Collector's Edition for pretty cheap. But you had called me over saying, listen, you have to look at this.
Yeah.
And, I was curious to see what Argus would say in that interview. So I was like, hold on, I want to see this for a second. And they're like, no, trust me, you want to see this. And sure enough, you lured me over to the Ubisoft booth, and sure enough, there it was the DualShock 4 in its glory.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the person who was playing thought that we were checking her out, and she was anything but a looker.
Yeah. To be honest, it was at a stage. It was an elevated stage. They were playing Assassin's Creed, and we're looking up, and it's a group of 3 staff members staring up at this unbeknownst woman who is playing her Assassin's Creed, And just the angle we were looking, it came off as a little odd, but we were kind of gawking uncontrollably at the PS4 DualShock.
Uncontrollably at the controller.
At the controller. We weren't,
So basically, just imagine 3 staff members staring at a controller, which is at pretty much the point of where you would normally stare at a girl.
It was a waistline.
Yeah, there we go. I'm trying to be like somewhat proper here. I don't want to say
from her field of vision, she's just seeing 3 heads stare directly at her belly area, pretty much.
Badonkadonks.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. Badonkadonks. Thank you, Borderlands 2.
But needless to say, we finally got to see the controller close up, and to me it looks sleek and sexy, and the blue light really went good with it. And you put a blue light on anything, and I think it looks great. That's why I love my Wii U light. I loved my
the Wii, actually.
Yes, and my Wii light too as well.
The disc tray light.
The disc tray light and the controller looked really nice.
It looked sleek.
And it looked, and it would have, it's a shame because it would have been really nice to actually feel the controller that we're going to be purchasing soon.
But at this point, I'd say we're a month away from it.
We're very close, so if nothing, it whet our appetites more for the new systems coming.
And no offense, between the line for it and then me just having zero interest in Assassin's Creed 4, I don't. Know what?
That's a whole other discussion, but absolutely.
Yeah, I just saw it. It's like, all right, awesome. Like I was amazed. I'm like, wow, that's the DualShock 4. I'm actually seeing it in person finally. But then I saw the game that was being demoed with it. I'm like, I just have zero interest in Assassin's Creed 4. I can already tell you why I'm so done with that series, and that's another series like Call of Duty that kind of needs to stop.
No, it needs to stop.
Yearly franchises need to stop.
Yes.
But that's another podcast.
That's
we can go
lengthy podcast.
That's a lengthy podcast we can go on about.
And now I think we could get into the cream of the crop, which was the main highlight of the event, which turned out to be, unknown to us, the Nintendo booth, which was the only strong showing of a gaming company.
Basically, for those Wii U doubters out there, and there really is just a huge amount of them, and I really have gotten so sick and tired of that, as much as I've gotten sick and tired, and you can agree with me with this.
Absolutely.
Next gen talk about, the Xbox One's better at this, the PS4 is better at this. Who gives a... you know what? It's infuriating, because we're still at that point where people are like, oh, well, that's better, and this is better. It's, again, we like our platforms the way they are because we like to play certain games that we like to play.
Right.
It's all about the games. It's not about the tech end, because if you're worried so much about the tech end, you're not caring about the main element here, which is playing the goddamn game.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to hold back my anger about this just because I can't stand how ridiculous some of the internet can be with certain things about this. And
I could go on.
We can go off
about
about the immaturity that the internet has about this stuff. But let's get right to it.
Absolutely.
Nintendo was there. Bottom line, Nintendo kicked ass.
Yeah.
And it could be because of the fact that they were the only game company that was serious there.
Right.
I mean, that's the best way to say it, is Nintendo was the only company that took it serious.
And to be fair, they were the only gaming company where their games were running on their system, not a PC.
Yeah.
When you think about that, Nintendo wasn't having their Wii U games run off high-end PCs.
Nope. They showed you what it's running on their platform.
I was touching a gamepad controller. I wasn't touching a GameCube controller that was hooked up to a PC that was supposed to be a Wii U.
Although we wouldn't complain about using a GameCube controller on a Wii U game.
No.
We're just saying.
But all in all, Nintendo had the strongest showing because, in reality, the only other people there was Ubisoft and Capcom, really. Square Enix had a small booth.
Square Enix had barely any booth. Actually,
Right.
They just were selling products, actually.
It was a very small showing this year, which was puzzling when all of these companies are having next-gen games. They're all prepping them for launch windows of the consoles. But aside from that, the 2 games that I personally got to demo and really enjoyed was Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Super Mario 3D World.
Okay,
so I'll just talk briefly about those 2, Glacier.
So let's start with Super Mario 3D World, because Donkey Kong we can both talk about since we co-opted that together.
Absolutely. Starting off with Super Mario World, I actually was kind of forced because it was such a packed crowd to play with 3 other people. So just like how I did with Super Mario World for the Wii U, originally at our Nintendo event we went to about a year and a half ago, I had to play co-op. So I got to experience co-op again. The game worked terrific, and at this point in the game, you come to expect Nintendo games to really work seamless. They have it down to a science. They've been making these games forever. So I'll get right to it. Visually, it definitely looks more vibrant and colorful than the previous Wii U of Mario.
You're right, which is New Super Mario Brothers U, as well as the new Luigi U, which came out over the summertime.
Right. And, of course, I was disappointed at first, and I think we all were, that it wasn't going to be a sequel to Galaxy, or wasn't going to be a full 3D Mario world. But what they have there has really changed my opinion a little bit. To be fair, actually a lot. Visually, the game looks stunning.
In 60 frames a second.
60 frames per second. It's claimed to be 1080p, which Glacier and I both feel it most likely is. The colors are beautiful. The gameplay is fun. They've changed it up in terms of the outfits. Now you have a cat outfit. There's more outfits in the game, which add a variety. It adds a variety to the levels. Each level will lend itself to the outfit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So my level, since I only had to play one, I wound up finding it's a bell symbol. That bell symbol turns you into a cat. That cat outfit gives you all different types of moves Mario's never done before. So it's almost like a different physics. He's pouncing on the floor. He could scratch enemies now, which Mario was never able to scratch an enemy.
Yeah.
Little things like that. And, some people might laugh, but, at the end, Nintendo really does make a product that works perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And Mario looks to be another killer first-party title that the Wii U so desperately needed and will get this holiday season. And the co-op was just great. I mean, the co-op, me with 3 other people, was working perfectly. We were all defeating enemies at the same time. Some of us were going into tunnels, into bonus rooms. Everything was moving fine. I was playing with the gamepad. And there were a couple of times I would just look down at the gamepad because I was trying to compare the visuals from the gamepad to the TV. And it was the same as with Super Mario U. The visuals transferred almost perfectly onto the gamepad.
Right.
And it's definitely not even, if you have to play on the gamepad, do it. There's no problem playing on the gamepad because the game looks just as vibrant and great and colorful on there. Overall, Super Mario 3D World was great. I am excited for it. That's going to be November 22nd, the same day as the X1 launch. So it is. It's definitely going to be a big holiday season. And then, of course, Glacier. Me and you got to co-op Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, which was just delayed, unfortunately, but at the same token, with all the games coming out this fall,
it's an understandable move.
And it's only till February, so in reality, everything's going so quick. But Glacier, what did you think about Tropical Freeze?
Well, right now, you guys who are listening, if you look at the screen, you'll probably start seeing some of the gameplay footage of Donkey Kong Country that we played. So far from what we played of the demo, it was nice returning to Donkey Kong Country. We both were massive fans of not only the originals on the Super Nintendo, but also the revitalization of Donkey Kong Country Returns, which hit the Wii. It goes without saying that Retro Studios definitely knows exactly how to bring this game back and to do it in a way where the difficulty is
absolutely
very integral to the experience, and it's there. Like that challenging difficulty, it's back, and that's great. That's what we need, That's what old school games are all about. It was that challenge that really tested your ability of actually memorizing your platforming and having the split-second time reactions and knowing you're jumping just right. And it's safe to say we purposely chose what we thought would be the hardest level of the game because for any Donkey Kong Country fans, you know that any levels where you're in a minecart, they're never usually that easy.
No.
So, R17 and myself, we were feeling a little bit like masochists, and we're like, all right, let's do the minecart demo. So it was cool. I was playing as Diddy Kong. You were playing as Donkey Kong.
Right.
And the first thing we noticed was visually just extremely vibrant, very colorful.
Got a fresh coat of paint from the Wii U version with improved textures.
From the Wii version,
They're utilizing the power of the Wii U.
Right. And you pointed out in the video, I remember.
Right off the bat, you see the hair textures of Donkey Kong.
You see every little hair, designed.
And now when you go back to the Wii version, you'll notice he doesn't have hair textures.
No.
Really. You go to the Wii U version, now you'll just see, something as fine as that, you would only notice if you played the original version on the Wii.
Right.
So it's one of those little things. But what else did you notice, Glacier?
We used the Wii remotes. That's what we were told to use.
Right.
Nunchuck and remote combination. Right. But the one thing I noticed just how much fun the game was in general. It does feel like more, just a proper sequel where, in the sense where it doesn't have to change much. It just has to roll with what worked and just keep making more levels that are challenging. There was nothing new that I saw immediately, but we didn't see those
we
4
saw such
levels
a
in that demo.
Just one level.
Visually, like I said, I was very impressed. Again, running 60 frames a second, 1080p again. Another Nintendo game that's doing that. And, you know, the minecart level, you were controlling the jumping.
Right.
And I had to kind of just pay attention to me ducking, but you also had to duck as well because we had to pay attention to propellers that we had to dodge. It's definitely a coordinated co-op game, though, because if I took a hit and you didn't, we both lost health.
No, it's a really intense co-op, and it's platforming at its hardest. I could easily say that. It's a side-scrolling, platforming, traditional Donkey Kong on steroids. And that's how the Wii version was, and they made that same difficulty where it's really not going to be for the 5-year-old kid. It's going to be for the person
the fans of
Donkey Kong and the ones who enjoy that platforming challenge of you might die 20 times on the board, and that's normal. But after those 20 times, you're going to remember and time each movement of each enemy with each cart that goes up and down. And it's all a process of elimination in a sense where you have to eliminate a couple of people, move on to the next section, but do it in such a way that only Donkey Kong was known for.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's no question, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, obviously we're going to have to pick up immediately when it comes out because, you know, it's...
Is that Valentine's Day of next year?
It's February, I forgot if they said I think it was the end of February.
End of February, yeah.
If it's Valentine's Day, I'm going to have to tell the girl.
Be spending it with Diddy and Dixie and not with the girl.
I have to get the girlfriend over and tell her, listen, we're spending Valentine's Day playing Donkey Kong. We may get frustrated and throw controllers at each other, but it's fine.
Yeah. And again, also, just to add, we didn't get to play the demo with Dixie Kong, but she was another new announcement just made a couple of weeks ago that Dixie would be in this game. And for those of you who played Donkey Kong 2 and Donkey Kong 3 back on the Super Nintendo, she has her own different moves. Because of her hair, she's able to spin, and she's able to jump higher, move across areas, hovering with her hair. So that alone adds a new element. But again, we saw such a tiny amount, but what we saw looked like it was ready to go. So
yeah, it did.
Knowing Nintendo and knowing the company behind Retro Studios, they're not going to release that game until it's completely 100% polished. And that's how they did with the Wii version, so I don't expect anything less with the Wii U version.
So, now, the one game that I got to play, as well as Argus 9, and is easily, hands down, my game of the show, was Bayonetta 2. It was as soon as we got there, I remember we bum rushed right to Nintendo because we knew that Microsoft wasn't there. We knew Sony wasn't there. Yeah. Capcom didn't really have an impressive looking booth that had anything I needed to rush to, and neither did Namco or Ubisoft, as we were stating before. So, going to Bayonetta 2, this was already my most exciting game I was most anticipating for the show, just because it's a sequel to what's regarded as one of the best hack and slash games out there. Bayonetta 1 was an excellent game that was on the PlayStation 3 and 360. While the PlayStation 3 version wasn't all that great technically, it still was playable by all means, and that's what I played it on. So, Bayonetta 2, the biggest shock was when we heard back last year that Bayonetta 2 was a Wii U exclusive, and that Nintendo is the company publishing the game because apparently Sega didn't want to publish a sequel to Bayonetta 2 due to, well, the infamous low sales.
Right.
So for those of you who complain constantly, like the kid did who was next to us during the event, saying how he can't stand how it's coming to the Wii U, let me remind you that it's because of Nintendo that the game is even getting a sequel at all. Right. So guess what? The sequel's out. Whether you hate the system or you like the system, there is a sequel to the game. So either you just fess up and buy the console if you want to play this game that much and stop complaining.
Or go over a friend's house.
Because
it will be some core third-party title.
You know, and the way I remember Ninja Gaiden 2 was going to be a 360 exclusive. I went out and I actually ended up getting a 360 just to play the game. But then Sigma 2 came out and I got rid of my 360.
We're not saying to do that.
Do not do that.
Not buy a system just for one game, but hey, I mean, that's your choice. But
at the same token, the Wii U has a lot of great games.
No, this, without a doubt, compared to last fall, this is the time to buy a Wii U.
Yeah, now, and that's any console cycle, though.
Absolutely, it's our price drop.
So, anyway, Bayonetta 2, got to play it. Another game, and I love how, Nintendo had 3 massive TV screens, and one for each of their big titles. The first
60-inch flat screen LED TV.
You know, for
crisp and beautiful.
Yep. And the first being Super Mario 3D World on a big screen. Right next to it was Donkey Kong Country. And then lastly was Bayonetta 2.
Which was really interesting because you're seeing their classic platformer, another classic platformer, and then a hack and slash brutal game. And this is all in the Nintendo booth.
Yes. And basically this was the Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge over there because of the fact that, it was this bloody, mature title that was published by Nintendo. But this is being developed by Platinum Games, the original developers, as Bayonetta 1, and the recently released The Wonderful 101, which is an excellent game that I'm currently still playing through and advise Wii U owners to look into if you haven't yet. But Bayonetta 2, you'll see it right now on the screen. If you're watching it, this is a full gameplay demo that we did. I was playing with the traditional standard controls, so if you've played Bayonetta before, it's the same exact control mapping. Just now imagine it on the Wii U. I was playing it on the gamepad, and I gotta say that game controls perfectly on the gamepad. What's even more impressive though is looking down at the gamepad screen.
Oh, absolutely.
And seeing that game is running on the gamepad screen, and you have to kind of rub your eyes and look again because you're in shock and disbelief that the Wii U gamepad can actually stream this incredibly intensive visual game. Again, 60 frames a second, 1080p. Incredibly rich textures, absolutely smooth animations. It's way more over the top than the original. As you can see right now, you're on top of a fighter jet doing this whole action scene against all these all the enemies on top of the fighter jet, and after that, it gets to a point where you're on this train that's being torn apart by one of the bosses, and it's just this ongoing track of intensity of just this train track falling apart behind you and this speeding bullet train you're on while fighting this massive epic scale creature. And if that wasn't enough, afterwards you're actually flying up a skyscraper, and you actually see full draw distance of the entire city detailed with absolutely stunning lighting. To put it this way, it looked like a next-gen game.
Right.
It actually competes with a next-gen game visually from what we were seeing. I remember just seeing wow, this is the Wii U running this.
And this is what we bought our Wii U for a year ago, was to have that balance of, on the same system, we could play a core title like this, a mature title like this, a technical masterpiece, hopefully, like this.
Yes.
And then instantly switch over to a Donkey Kong or a Mario or a Mario Kart. That's the blend that Nintendo brings to the game that the other systems really can't quite replicate.
Yep.
So Nintendo's trying to bring both of them, and it was a slow start, but if we keep heading in this direction, as we saw now, they'll have no problem.
No. And then additionally, once I completed my playthrough, and it was about a 13-minute demo, then Argus9 tried it, but what he did that was different was he chose for full touchscreen controls. Now, the game can actually be completely played with the stylus in hand and gamepad in the other hand. You'll play strictly through the gamepad screen, but what's cool is anybody who's around you that wants to watch, they can watch the TV screen, and it'll even show you where you're drawing your stylus on the TV screen as well. And basically, all movement is controlled with the pen. You'll just point in the direction you want Bayonetta to move. You'll tap and hold or rapidly tap the enemy to keep attacking, and it'll automatically cycle through her combos. You'll be able to swipe quickly on the screen to do dodge maneuvers, and you'll also tap on the screen if you want to do a certain climax attack or a uniform attack. And then on top of that, they add to the heads-up display, if you play the touchscreen, her items for health, to revitalize your health and to refill your wish gauge. And it's interesting. They actually took this really daunting task to actually play the entire game, and something as intense as that game, strictly with the stylus as an option. And it worked flawlessly. Yeah. As you see in the video right now of Argus playing, everything is extremely responsive. So if you want to see the full video, it's up on the site for both the regular playthrough or the touchscreen playthrough. There's no question that probably the touchscreen playthrough is what most people want to watch because that's the more unique aspect. So hands down, Bayonetta 2, my game of the show. Yeah. Easily one of the most important games for Nintendo right now. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the most anticipated games for me for 2014. Mm-hmm. Additionally, we took a break from Nintendo, and we kind of walked around to see what else the show had to offer. So at that point, we had actually walked over to the Namco booth, and we got to check out Dark Souls 2 being demoed, which looked pretty much like Dark Souls 1, which is never a bad thing. That's right. This is a game that if it's perfect, there's if what's not broken, don't fix.
Right.
It just looked more of the same, but in a great way with new environments, enhanced visuals. There's no question that Dark Souls 2 will be another big title.
Right.
And then they also had Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures, which Namco announced earlier this year. It's a 3D platformer, much in the reins of a Pac-Man World for the PS2 era.
It looked fun.
I enjoyed it. You right now see some gameplay going on, and again, the full video will be on the site. But basically, from what I played, Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures, it will be coming to the PlayStation 3, 360, Wii U, and will be coming to the 3DS as well, and it will be a little bit different on the 3DS than it is on the platforms, so it's nice to see that a handheld edition will be different.
So it's going to reach a lot of markets.
It should reach a lot of markets. It's based on the new cartoon for Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures, hence the name. Right. Playing it, it's fun. It's a platformer. I like my platformers. It might be a little childish. Voice acting wise is a little high pitched for Pac-Man. But aside from that, I'm not gonna lie. I was playing it, and it was like one of those games that it's a 3D platformer, and if you like your 3D platformers, you do well to give it a rent at the very least. From what I played so far, it was cool. Like Pac-Man can get different abilities. For example, eating one of the power pellets, he'll be able to spew ice so the ghost would freeze them, and then chomp on them. But the reason you'll need that is some ghosts might be on fire, so you need to actually freeze them before you can actually chomp them. And what's cool is that if a lot of ghosts are within a certain radius, you can actually do like a lightning fast combo where you can chomp with them very quickly and kind of speed dash toward each one to chomp them. It was pretty cool. I was actually having fun with it. So I'm definitely looking forward to checking that out come the end of this month. Actually, October 29th is when it will be hitting the PlayStation 3, 360, and Wii U.
It'll be coming very quick.
And November 5th for the 3DS.
Okay.
So, additionally, we went over to Capcom's booth.
You got to check out Strider along with Argus.
Yes. Argus did a full demo playthrough, and again, that's on the site. You'll probably see some gameplay right now. Strider was looking really cool. It's basically they're trying to bring the series back. It's been a very long time since Strider's had its own game.
Yeah.
And based on what you could see, it's very reminiscent of the originals, while also reaching more of a modern market of having that open world, side-scrolling, kind of like a Metroidvania exploration. Very cool stuff from what we saw. Again, full demos on there. Impressively enough, Argus was the only person I saw during that demo showcase that did not die throughout the entire playthrough. And people were complaining that it was way too hard. Those are the people who are new age gamers, as I like to call them. And
not used to, again, the old platforms we're used to that are just challenging, and you're going to die a couple of times before you get it.
Yep, but you'll see in Argus's video, if you watch the full 13.5-minute video, 14-minute video, the entire playthrough without dying once, which is pretty much showcasing skill.
Yeah.
And you'll see it's old school at its finest. Yeah. So it's great to see more of that. So that'll come out spring of 2014 for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One as a downloadable title. So very, very cool to see that they're trying to reach everybody. Wii U, unfortunately, getting the shaft. But who knows? Maybe down the line, Capcom will kind of step it up and say, okay, well, the Wii U, we don't have to shun out on this one either.
Luckily, the Wii U, we're going to be getting a lot this year and early next, so, absolutely.
Then we headed over back to Nintendo, because realistically, at that point, we're like, well, we still have Nintendo to continue. So at that point, Argus and we split up, and I went to go test out Sonic Lost World for the Wii U, while he went to go test out Zelda, A Link Between Worlds for the 3DS. Let me start off by saying that Sonic Lost World has me very excited.
Yeah.
Another game coming out at the end of this month, which is this, looks absolutely amazing visually. Again, another game that looks vibrant. I like my vibrant,
and it's great to see games. Sonic back.
Great to see Sonic back, and it's different. It's kind of like if you mesh Super Mario Galaxy, but with Sonic instead, that's what you can expect with Sonic Lost World.
And it's an exclusive for the Wii U. They're utilizing the system fully.
Mm-hmm.
And Glacier, based on what you saw, what do you think visually, when you compare it to Mario 3D World and other games that are exclusives running on the Wii U. How's Sonic hold up?
It's showing that they're utilizing the Wii U properly.
Yeah.
It's another visually stunning game. There's no question that Nintendo was there to show off their visual powerhouses.
Yeah.
And that's smart because you need something that's eye candy for the viewers that walk past and go like, oh, wait, what's that? Oh, wait, wow, that looks really cool. What's that on? And I think they played it smart with that. So, Sonic Lost World, no question. From what I played, I did the first level, which is basically the level that they've been showcasing at E3, which was the Green Hill Zone, or what I consider what I consider Green Hill Zone. I know it wasn't called that. I forgot what it was called, and forgive me for that.
Similar to that.
Yeah. But you'll see that there's a lot of elements brought back from the Sega Genesis era.
Yeah.
The capsules with the birds and the animals that you can rescue in there, they're back. You can rescue them. Some of the enemies are back from the original Sega Genesis classics. So they definitely wanted to tie in a lot with the Genesis era and put it into 3D. But what's great is that they did not abandon the 2D side-scrolling elements. Right. Those are back. There are levels where you're back to 2D side-scrolling elements. So there's no question, Sonic Lost World, I'm very excited for.
It's going to be another great title for the Wii U.
Another Wii U exclusive that's got me excited. If anything, this holiday season's got me very excited to keep that Wii U up and running. So aside from that, at that point, I quickly went over to see Argus playing Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Another game running at 60 frames a second on the 3DS.
Which I couldn't get over, and though I'm not a Zelda fan, I've always been intrigued by this series, and I've always been interested in getting into them. And seeing a 3DS game running at 60 frames per second is something really... It's something stunning, and Glacier, the way you and August reacted, I knew something special was going on screen when you guys were watching it.
Yeah, the videos just don't do it justice. When you see the game in person on that screen running, and how smooth it's running, and how intuitive the game is. I mean, one of the biggest features that they changed for the first time in Zelda history, as August was telling me yesterday, is the ability to actually go about the game at your own pace. It doesn't matter. You don't have to go at one dungeon, get a certain item, get the boss key, kill the boss, and move to the next dungeon with that item and keep finding a new item for that specific dungeon and go in a specific order. Now you can go to any dungeon at any pace you want and rent items to help you get through no matter what dungeon you're in. So you can play at your own pace.
Right.
There's no more restriction. It's really bringing about this whole open world to the game.
Right.
Coupled with the fact that you can actually become a mural on the wall and move alongside the wall in a 3D environment. There's no question that Zelda: A Link Between Worlds will be a massive 3DS game.
Yes. And it is a Zelda year because you had Zelda Wind Waker for the Wii U just released.
A couple of
weeks ago. So it is definitely a big Zelda year.
Yes. And it's great to see that. Yes. So, and then, here's hoping that we'll see the new Zelda for the Wii U. Hopefully, absolutely. Nintendo, if you're listening, please build it based on the tech demo you showed off in E3 of 2011 because those are the visuals you need to show off. That
yes, Wind Waker is taking that cell shaded into a 3D world. That's terrific. But now for this new Zelda, make it a fully rendered 3D game with stunning visuals, just like the tech demo they had showed 2 years ago and promised. And all in all, I would say for Comic-Con this year, Nintendo brought out the biggest guns, mainly because they were one of the few ones there.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think even if Sony and Microsoft were there, Nintendo could have definitely stood on their own because of the content that they had brought. The content they brought was mostly exclusives, and they were all big-budget games that all played fantastic so far.
Absolutely. There's no question that Nintendo definitely, they saw it as an advantage that they didn't have to worry about next-gen platforms being there because that was their time to shine at hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people there. I mean, we're talking 125,000 people who are currently here right now for today only.
Right.
And they're pretty much estimating about an estimate of about 700,000 to almost a million people.
Within the next 3 days.
And that's absolutely insane.
That's going to be a lot of potential Wii U buyers or Wii U owners already, and that's going to be terrific for them because if you're on the fence about the system, now you know the system's got the price drop, or will have the price drop.
At $300 right now, and if you get it now, you get Wind Waker HD bundled in it.
already with it, and you've got a huge selection. And we didn't even mention, because it wasn't there on the show, is We Fit You is going to be coming out in 2 months, which is going to be a huge thing.
Yeah, We Fit You, We Party You, which will be a great game.
We Fit still the number one. It was the number one selling or fastest selling game at the time.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that thing sold like hotcakes.
So We Fit You, I don't expect anything less. The exercise craze for people is still going on, and Nintendo's just got a great showcase overall.
They do. I mean, come tomorrow, on Saturday, Pokemon X and Y will be released worldwide.
Right. Another big thing. And
the biggest thing with that is the fact that at Comic-Con, these people who are there will be able to storm Nintendo's booth and may God be with you, because it's going to be a bloodbath for people rushing to that. I'm not going to lie. I'm actually I'm
intrigued by it. So
I never thought I would say that I would actually consider Pokemon, because it's the last time I've actually played Pokemon was Pokemon Yellow.
But again, it's supposed to be more like the old ones that we had known before we left Pokemon years ago. So that does have me a little intrigued.
That, and it probably doesn't help that Argus and other buddy who's going to be coming with us tomorrow, Rion, will also be pressuring me into buying this game with money I just don't have right now when I have to buy next-gen platforms next month.
No.
Not to mention the Wii U titles, and not to mention not to mention the holiday shopping, the Christmas shopping and all that fun stuff. It's gonna be a good fun time. Yeah, expensive time of the year. Most wonderful time of the year, my ass.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. This is basically our recap of what we played. Definitely check out the full gameplay demos that we took videos of.
Absolutely.
We try to take as much video as we can, but
it was the full demos for most of them.
Yeah.
Most of them. Bayonetta, you got full footage. Strider, full footage. Some of these are 12-plus minute videos, so definitely enjoy. HD glory as always.
Yeah, it's in HD, 1080p.
Yeah.
So, guys, let us know what you think about what you saw, what you heard. Definitely sound off in the comments about what you guys are, interested most in for the holiday season or early 2014, based on some of the games we mentioned. Yeah. Your thoughts about the lack of next-gen consoles at this event, the lack of Watch Dogs being playable. But, again, as well as everything else you just heard in the video. So, all right, guys, we're signing out. Thanks for tuning in, and be back next time.